cool. But yeah, they are both serving in the northwest region of the Johannesburg church. Jacques, the evangelist, and Laura is leading in the women's ministry. Jacques was baptized in 2001. Thank goodness for us that you were baptized. He was met when he was a student at the University of Cape Town. He was studying industrial psychology. He graduated with a B.Com honors degree and did a little bit of work in training and development, but then he decided to go into the full-time ministry in 2007. Laura, on the other hand, became a cosmetologist, meaning she studied hair and makeup and wanted to pursue that career in Los Angeles. But luckily for us, God had a different plan. She then moved or was met in California and became a disciple there, and then moved back to her hometown in Minnesota and worked for the church there in 2010. The two of them met in Cape Town in 2011, and they are now married. They have kids. That's one of my joys, is babysitting their kids, Lincoln and Anzal. Anzal is 5 and Lincoln is 4. But yeah, they're just lovely people. I wouldn't be where I am at if it weren't for them. Laura's my discipler, and I'm just so grateful for the way they interact with the campus ministry, and in every aspect of ministry they are so zealous and just ready to jump deeper, and their persistence with their relationship with God is just really something to strive for. But yeah, over to you guys. Super excited to hear what you guys have to say about grit.
All right, Maxwell, thank you very much.
Thanks,
and
Max.
Yeah, and it's so good to be with you guys. So just to clarify that this lesson is the grit lesson, and we'll definitely define very clearly just now what that is all about. But why don't we say a prayer, and then we'll jump straight into it. And my hope as well is that it would be a little bit of an interactive time. So I think this session definitely leans more towards that. So but let's say a prayer, and then we'll dive in. Heavenly Father, thank you so much just for this amazing time, this amazing weekend that we've had so far. God, I feel so inspired and so challenged in my own faith. Father, to be able to be audacious, God, and that starts with our walk with you. It starts with our relationship with you. Father, we want to be able to not pay attention to normal constraints. We want to be able to be men and women that take bold risks, Father, but not just in actions, but that's who we want to be, Father, deep down inside of us. And I pray as we start talking about character growth and really being transformed radically to be more like your Son, specifically in this area of grit and resilience and having a thick skin, God, that this would be a productive time. I pray that everybody will grab hold of exactly what they need to hear, Father, and that they'd be able to walk away feeling encouraged and also kind of ready to apply what they've learned. We love you so much. Praise on your Son's name, Jesus. Amen. Okay. Well, please turn your Bibles to Proverbs 24. Proverbs 24. Okay.
Hi, Kia. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Oh, wait. Hi.
Yeah, please, if you can't put on your screen, please do so. It'd be great.
Good to see you. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, guys, this is something that is really important to us. I think after having kids, we kind of talked about what we want to instill, or what we want to have as kind of our family values, what we want to teach our kids, and what type of values we want to have. And after giving it some thought, we kind of decided on the following ones. So the Genis family values, we had a little B, and then it said B ... and then the different ones. And so it was be kind, be respectful, be obedient, and be resilient. And we decided on that because we wanted our family values to actually be based on a relationship with God, and we wanted to use biblical terms, right? So hence the kind, respect, obedient, etc. But we both totally agreed that even though the word resilient isn't per se in the Bible, the concept is all over the place. And it's absolutely like a crucial part of life. It's so important to learn and understand, as well as just important to develop the art of resilience because of how difficult and how real life gets. Yeah.
There we go. So we want to tee it up. The main passage that we are going to anchor this conversation on is in Proverbs 24. And you can read there with us, verse 16. It's going to be over very quickly, but we'll come back to it a couple of times. It says, for though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. So that's kind of the NIV version. The Holman Christian Standard Bible just says, though a righteous person falls 7 times, he will get up, but the wicked will stumble into ruin. So it carries this idea that, somebody with godly character, right, or Christ likeness, they will fall many times. They will face many challenges, but they have this ability to get back up, to bounce back. And that's the definition that we want to use. That's what grit is. That's what resilience is. It's the ability to bounce back, to pop back up, to get up and try again. And I think the visual that we want to, give you guys with this is very sort of simple and well known, but hopefully this will be helpful, that if you just think, okay, what was everything about? This is what it's about. And it's this one. It's I grew up calling this a buoy, but I think it might be pronounced buoy. But all of us know this, right? Sometimes it's kind of out there for triathletes to swim around in order to train. Sometimes it's kind of a beacon for ships if it's a bigger buoy. Like there's a number of things there. But if you drag a buoy down, like you could drag it down as deep as you want, like into deep waters, incredibly challenging scenarios, if you may. What happens with a buoy is it pops back up. Like it might take a little while, like the deeper it is, the longer it'll take to rise to the top, but that's what it does. Like it's shaped that way. It's built that way. All right. So that's the visual picture that we want to give you guys, is, all of us here want to develop godly character. All of us here want to be like Jesus, and we want to invite you to make a decision to be like a buoy. All right. So that's where we, that's what we're going to be talking about. So
awesome. And as I shared, Lincoln's joining us today because he doesn't want to go sit with my parents. So, but as I shared, this is something that we are trying to instill in our family. And as situations come up, we don't want to just kind of correct their behavior, if you will. We want to teach them that resilience is important. And so giving into fear or giving into frustration just really isn't an option, because we're going to be faced with it all the time, rather just to kind of face them and tackle them head on. So I think for both our children, we've seen this come up often. I think when doing things like building a puzzle, for example, with Anzel, I will see her working, and she's now kind of on the 75 to 100 piece puzzle.
She's 5.
She's kind of starting there. And so as she's doing it, there'll be times where, the pieces look too similar, or, it's just about done. And then Lincoln takes it and breaks the rest of it. And you can see the closed fists and, I'm so mad and I'm done. And, she just kind of throws in the towel. And, we kind of have to, or Lincoln, for example, with riding a bike, he's kind of starting to ride a training wheel bike. And if he falls off, or if he can't get the pedaling going forward, because that's a skill that I guess they just gradually learn. I didn't realize that. It'll be easy to just say, no, this is too hard. I don't want to do it. And then they'll they'll kind of get off or they'll stop doing it. And, you know, I think teaching them that resilience, or just kind of that idea, let's bounce back, you know, we'll use that word, bounce back. It's deciding to overcome that frustration or the feelings that are connected to a certain failure and making a choice to get back up and try again.
Definitely. And it's so important for us, like we realize like this needs to be installed at a young age, you know, and some of us here are much older, but some of us here are still young spiritually. I mean, if you want to be faithful to the end, you're talking about you're going to be a disciple for the next 40, 50 years. But if you can learn this, to get back up, to bounce back, it's so important. So ultimately, grit and resilience is a decision to overcome the fear, the frustration, or the feelings that is connected to a certain failure, a certain fall, or just a tough time. Like, because, you know, that fear and that frustration comes up, those feelings, like a myriad of feelings come up, but it's to decide I'm not going to allow that to get me to tap out. Like, I'm going to overcome that. All right, Kia, question?
May you please repeat the definition, because
Sure.
it was quite long and you went really quickly.
Okay, so resilience or grit is deciding to overcome the fear, the frustration, or the feelings, okay, that come, that's connected to a certain fall or a failure, or just a hard time. So regardless of the fear that I feel, the insecurity that I feel because of the fall, or the feelings that I have, I make the choice and the decision that I'm going to get back up again. I'm going to try again. I'm going to engage again. I'm going to bounce back again. All right, got it. So now let me ask you this. If you stand back and survey and think about the Bible, who do you say are some of the most resilient examples that we have, like men and women? You can just kind of unmute and share some of those. Yeah, Zander.
Well, I think the previous lesson, the Canaanite woman, you know, she was resilient. She was not going to stop. I think. Oh wait, I'll think about more later. But yeah,
great example. Yeah, awesome. Okay, anybody else have a guess?
Can you guys repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, examples as you think about Old and New Testament, whose examples of resilience that come up, biblical examples, men or women?
I think of Ruth and her mother-in-law. What's her mother-in-law's name?
Naomi. Yeah.
Naomi, yes. So yeah, just their whole story. I love their story about how she loses both of her sons, and then Ruth manages to stay with her mother-in-law, even though like there's no real reason for her to stay there. But yeah, it's just they continue, and Ruth ends up like grabbing the scraps at a farmer, and yeah, it's an amazing story.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Amy.
I think. Oh, sorry, was Kia about to go?
Amy and Katie, did you guys have your hand up?
Yeah. Sorry. Can we go quickly?
Go for it. Yeah, please.
Okay, cool. I think for me, it's always been Job. If I look at resilience and an example, I just think, I mean, everything was taken from that man, and yet he stayed faithful. And for me, that's just incredible.
Yeah. That's an incredible example. Absolutely. All right, Zander, the last one.
Yeah, I think so far it's almost everything, all the lessons that we've learned, even yesterday's with what's his name, Gabriel.
Or Gideon.
Yeah, Gideon, sorry. Yeah, I knew it was a G. I just and also what's the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? They were literally dragged to the point of death, and they were still deciding, you know what, we will stand up. We're not going to go down. This is something. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, what's amazing, you know, if you kind of peel back the layers of the Bible, you'll find that it's really filled with stories of people that have fallen. Sometimes epic fails and sometimes small fails. People that have gone through incredibly hard times, but got back up. most of the time. Sometimes there are examples. We even have a Judas, right? That fell, that sort of sold Jesus. He didn't get back up. You know, and that revealed who he truly was, you know. So, but the Bible is full of those examples. But I want to tell you a story of a young man. All right, so you can learn in, and you can lean in and just kind of listen. But this young man grew up in a middle-class household, and with a pretty big family, a lot of brothers, a lot of sisters. But he was the youngest boy, and it was a religious household. The household went to church often. They read their Bibles. They believed that God was very important. And it was a young man with big aspirations and dreams, definitely. I mean, he was fairly talented, but he'd often talk about who he wants to become and what's going to happen in the future. He was good in sports, had a lot of friends, but he was pretty arrogant as well. Like there was a sense of entitlement that came with it, and he was pretty spoiled. And what made matters worse is his parents actually seemed to favor him more than the other kids, believe it or not. And growing up, this would subtly happen. You know, when something went wrong, you know, the parents would maybe discipline every other child except this young man. And when they would reprimand people, like they would reprimand him, but like in a different way, like with a different tone. And, you know, and sometimes they would kind of buy him special things, or they would praise his accomplishments a little more than his brothers and sisters. You know, and even when they dished out chores, they would give him the easiest ones. Like it's clear, like he's not the guy that gets asked to pick up the dog poop. Like he gets like the easiest task. Right? And then finally, when he turned 18, it became abundantly clear. His dad actually bought him a car, and he was the only sibling to have a car. You know, so, and one day it was too much. His siblings was like, man, we have, you know, we have suffered, you know, for a long time, and their jealousy and their envy got too much of them. So they said, hey, why don't we jump in the car and go on a road trip? And, you know, this younger man decided, man, that sounds like a fun idea. But what he didn't know is the siblings spiked his drink. All right. So he fell into kind of a deep sleep. They drove him over a number of borders and dropped him in a foreign neighboring country. All right. And left. Then they actually pulled the car off to the side. I burned the car and then phoned back home to say that, man, they were in a terrible accident. And actually this young boy passed away, but that they kind of made it. You know, but this young man, all of a sudden, so that was the story. I came back home, but this young man in this foreign country, he lived on the streets for a little while until he met a rich guy that sort of felt a sense of compassion for him. And he started working for him as a gardener. And, you know, shortly after he started the job, the rich guy's daughter took note of him. And she would, when her dad's not looking or family's not looking, would start begging him to sleep with her. And this guy, you know, you can imagine he's like in a foreign country, he's in this household, but he decided that is not the right thing to do. Like, and he said to this daughter, begging him for it. He's like, no. You know, I respect your dad. He's bailed me out of a tough scenario, but also how can I sin against God? Like, it's not right. This is biblically not accurate to be able to do that. In any case, unfortunately, she was so furious with his denials that she conjured up a story that he took advantage of her. So she went to her dad and told her dad, hey, here's kind of what happened. You can imagine this dad is furious. He's enraged. Without even speaking to the young man, he decides to call the police and have him arrested. So here he is, foreign country, unjustly charged. He ends up in prison. And unfortunately, the judicial system of that country wasn't very good. He stays in prison for an inordinate amount of time. But, you know, he starts working in kind of the prison kitchen. He does so well because he's so diligent and so reliable that then he kind of moves up. They take him to the prison library. He starts kind of working in the prison library. And also there, he started making most of this opportunity to take some of the books and to study. You know, one of his big things was finances and economics, probably because all of a sudden he's a poor man and how do I break out of the cycle? So he does that. And then finally, after a very long time of sitting in prison, you know, his case goes to trial, realizes this complete bogus story, and he gets released. And the prison warden, lucky for him, his brother of the prison warden was this big shot at a massive financial firm. And the prison warden says, look, I have this young guy, completely innocent, spent a lot of time here, but he's a hard worker, he's super reliable, he's a great learner. So, hey, maybe give him a shot. And he ends up getting, this young man ends up getting hired in this financial firm. Now, financial firm was great, but it was struggling. But this guy really had a gift, this young guy. He was a great salesman, very persuasive in what he said. And his job became getting new clients for this financial firm. And he did it so well that because of the clients that he brought to the firm, he actually helped this financial firm to get out of sure trouble and liquidation. So it went well for him for a period of time. Then one day he got a call to come into the boardroom, and he worked his way through to middle management and then to executive level. He got this call to come into the boardroom, and apparently there were some business owners that was going through a tremendously hard time, and they wanted to come see him and this financial firm to help them from destruction. And as he walked in and as he sat down, lo and behold, he was sitting around the table in the boardroom, but his brothers, like his brothers that has started this financial business, family business that is, you know, down in the dumps, sure to fall. And they don't recognize him at all because it's been so many years. So he listens to their plea, listens to their story, begging him and his financial firm, please help us, like bail us out of this. Otherwise, our elderly parents and all of that is going to suffer as well. And, you know, when he couldn't take it anymore, he gets up, goes to the restroom and just breaks down weeping, like shattered. I mean, all those feelings and emotions of like hurt and sadness and disappointment, plus like a little bit of excitement of seeing his family again, like all of that comes rushing in. But now he's faced with a choice. Like he literally has the power to decide, will I help and bail them out, or am I going to fight fire with fire? In any case, he goes back into the boardroom, and when he couldn't take it any longer, he reveals himself, says, before I give you my answer, I want you to have a very close look at my face. And then he says, well, I'm the younger brother, and many years earlier, you guys literally spiked his drink, drove me over borders, and dropped me off in a foreign country. And you could see at that point, like a pin could drop. Like the brothers are sitting there realizing, oh my goodness. And he continues to say to them, what I've realized reflecting on what had happened is you guys intended to hurt me. You guys intended it for my bad, but I've realized that God has been at work. That maybe he's brought me here to this place, to this financial firm for such a time as this, that maybe I'm able to help you and our family be saved from sure destruction. So decided to help them. They kind of embraced, and everything was reconciled. Now, if you haven't figured it out yet, this sounds like an audacious, ridiculous, far-fetched story. But in actual fact, it is the absolute mirror of the story of Joseph. That's like absolutely what happened to him, and explains like the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, sort of his life. And I would encourage you to study his story. Genesis 37 down to 50, to study his story and to trace it. To see, if you talk about a man that fell, that had hardships, that had tough times, but that got back up, I think he's an incredible example. Somebody that bounced back. All right. Now, the big question is, when we stand back, just as you as you hear that, and even as we consider Joseph's story, so we stand back and consider these examples, what do we learn? And what can we grab from it that will enable us to develop the ability to bounce back better? All right. So let me hand over to Laura. We've got a couple of observations.
Yeah. I think the first one is that failure and falling and disappointments will happen, right? I think we can gather that. It teaches us to recognize that we can't determine what the future may hold, and unforeseen circumstances, failures, hardships, they make up our existence as humans. Life is hard. Difficulties, hardships, they will happen. It's inevitable. And I think I've seen this even in my own life. I'll share quickly on it, but I feel like I was a little bit of Joseph. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I'm the only girl. I was spoiled, all of these different things. And life was good. We had a middle-class family. We always had things paid for. I never had to pick up the dog poop. I was the spoiled child, that everybody, like, I got a car, my brothers did, like, there was just always, everything was good. And then I think it was probably after turning 25, I realized, like, okay, the man that I thought I was going to marry didn't want to have anything to do with the relationship with God. So that was a disappointment. My life of wanting to be 25, married with 2 kids, that wasn't there. And then, after we did get married, we struggled for a while to fall pregnant with our firstborn, and that was very difficult for me. Things had always just happened. Things were always easy. Things were always given to me. When I asked for something, it was a yes, and then that happened. And then a couple of years ago was kind of when things started spiraling more. And I know we each have our own stories and we each go through so much, but my dad was diagnosed with a very severe lymphoma cancer, and we didn't know how long he was going to make. And that was kind of the first real, like, wake up call or hardship, I think, in our immediate family. And then shortly after that, my parents came to visit us, but then, I was used to seeing them every year. They would come to me, we would come to them. Like, it was always just a given. And then, because of the pandemic, we couldn't see them for it's been 2.5 years since, our kids have seen their grandparents. And when Lincoln was born, I'm kind of, these aren't in order, but I'm kind of just rattling off the last couple of years. Like, pretty much every month since Lincoln was born, he was sick with something. And that was one of the things that was so difficult for me. He was in hospital constantly. It was always, and I have a fear of sick, hypochondria, like, by nature. I just assume the worst when anybody gets sick. And then obviously with that fear and all of those things, with Lincoln being so sick, a pandemic hit. So then, my mind even starts to scramble more. And then in the midst of the, not being able to see family and do normal life, my brother passes away suddenly in his sleep. And then that happened. And then, as a result of that, severe depression and, emotions that come with it from a lot of members of my family, just things that I can't control. And I think life, disappointments, these things happen. We want to adopt a child. That hasn't been able to happen. It's been a clear no, because I'm not a South African resident. Like, there's just so many things that just keep piling up that are no's, disappointments, failure, disappointments and discouragements. And so I think it's just kind of been a constant thing of, wow, this does happen. Life happens and it is hard. So there's a lot of plan Bs, a lot of plan Cs, Ds, and Es, I think, and it's just an expected thing, kind of during life.
Yeah, so I think that's the first one, is the thing that keeps us down, or the thing that bends us out of shape, keeps us out of shape, is, I think, when we get surprised, when we think, why is this happening? Or why is this happening to me? Somehow that we are supposed to dodge a normal part of life. So I think it would be really helpful if we start talking about building grit and resilience, to accept that falling, failure, and disappointments is just a natural part. I mean, it even says it in different places, right? In Isaiah 40, verse 30, you can just write this down. It says, even youths grow tired and weary. Young men and women will stumble and fall. Like, it's a guarantee. So if we can just get a little less surprised, I think we'll be able to pop back up a little quicker. What keeps us down is sort of staying in that, like, I think, self-pity state for too long, right? And I'm not saying, like, man, just shove your emotions or your feelings under the carpet. That's not helpful at all. But I think it's to embrace that this is a part of us and of life. So that's the first thing. The second thing I think that would be super helpful, and that's very obvious, from Joseph's story, is he had the ability to zoom out. All right, have a look quick in Genesis 39. And Genesis 39. All right, maybe we can have somebody read there. Genesis 39 from verse 6 to 10. Zander, can you read that? And you could pick up verse 6. Yeah, it sort of starts halfway almost. You'll see it there.
Awesome. Is everyone there? I assume. Okay, cool. Yep. So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well-built, handsome, and after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then can I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph the day after, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Yeah. Even though she spoke to him day after day after day. I mean, what do you see here, right? So here's kind of a scenario. He's in a foreign country. He's a young man. His master's wife, is like, "Come to bed with me." And yet, what does he do? Is he zooms out. He zooms out to get a different perspective. And he's like, man, no, I'm a man under authority. How can I sin against, God and against your master? He looked at this challenging scenario that's plaguing him, and instead of staying stuck, he sort of zoned out, got a different perspective, and that's what enabled him to bounce back up, to keep refusing her, to keep making the right decision, to keep remaining faithful to God, regardless of what's going on. Have a look in Genesis 45. We'll see it right here again. And maybe we can have somebody else read there, verse 1 to 8.
I can read.
All right. Is that Max? No, who
yes.
said that? Okay, cool. Go for it, Max.
Cool. Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him. He cried, "Make everyone go out from me." So no one stayed with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, so that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. So Joseph said to his brothers, "Come near to me, please." And they came near. And he said, "I am your brother, Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years." How far am I going?
To 8.
Oh, got you. And there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was Not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh and lord of all his house and ruler over all the land of Egypt.
Okay. All right. So what does he do again? Like his brothers come back in. He has this like this opportunity to take revenge, right? Or to kind of, you know, to stay there, and yet he zooms out again. He's like, man, let me get a different perspective. And that's what he explains to them. He's like, no, you guys meant this for my harm, but now that I'm reflecting on it and I'm considering these different things, I realize that God has been at work in all of this. You know, and I think one of the things that keeps us stuck is when we get fixated on what we feel or on the offense that somebody did against us, or on the situation. Like we brew over it. We talk about it. We think about it. Like we get fixated, and that keeps us stuck. That buoy that gets dragged down, it stays under there. Where I think one of the things that we need to do is we need to zoom out and get a different perspective in order to kind of bounce back up.
But zooming out is super hard. Okay, I think that's the thing, you know. Why? Because we're in the here and now, you know, and we're here and now is what's going on. This is how I feel, and I feel deeply. And I know a couple of the women on this call, I know women in my life, I know for myself, I feel deeply when I'm in different situations, you know. And going back, you know, even to the puzzles and the bike riding situation, when that frustration comes, or when those things come, oftentimes I'll say to the kids, like if I see Anzel getting that frustrated in her feels, and then, you know, just kind of deeply passionate about this, I'll say, man, it looks like you're feeling pretty frustrated about it, rather than being like, hey, stop it, don't deal with it. You know, we speak through it because feelings are a big part of us and what we are. But I'll just say, man, sounds like you're feeling really frustrated. And one of the words I use, and I'll often use this for the, you know, those that I mentor and disciple as well, is I'll say, is it a big deal or a little deal? You know, and for Anzel, I'll say, is that a big deal or a little deal? Because in my mind, I can zoom out. I can see that a puzzle in the big scheme of things is actually a really little deal, or falling off your bike is a really little deal. So I'll literally say to them, big deal or little deal. And then I'll just kind of stop her and I'll zoom out for her, you know, and I'll just kind of take a look back and say, you know, hey, what else can we do? What's something else that we can do differently? Or maybe we need to walk away and come back to it later, or maybe we need to take a breath and think about another way to do it, or try something different. And it's fascinating, you know, because now when we start to do things or when I start to do, you know, different puzzles or more difficult things, or as she learns to ride a two-wheel bike, or all of these different things, I'll just kind of overhear them, and I'll hear her say to her brother, oh, little deal, or you know, or big deal. Or if she is in the moment in her field, like she'll be like, this is a big deal, and I'm like, well, milk spilling is actually a little deal, you know. So we're able to talk through it, and I'm seeing that they're learning to become resilient. She's thinking about it. Is this a big deal that I need to react to, or is this a little deal that I can actually bounce back from and try something different? Because we do know hardships are going to come and difficulties are going to come. So what kind of helps me to zoom out? Because again, I know that that's the difficult thing. I think it's two things. It's people and prayer. Yeah. Okay. Often I'll go to Jacques, or, you know, trusted people that I kind of can turn to, and I know that they'll not take me too seriously when I'm feeling a lot. Or they not take me seriously. They just know not to react. They don't think, oh my gosh, who is this woman? She's going crazy. But I'll go to them, and as I just start to talk about it, simply just saying it out loud helps me to realize, ooh, little deal. Or, you know, why am I reacting so hard? And it's difficult to do at the moment, because oftentimes I just want to keep feeling it. So to actually be speaking about it. Or even I'll go to my discipler, and as I see her reaction to what I'm saying, I realize, ooh, little deal. Or, you know, when she's just like, oh yeah, no, that happens all the time. And I'm like, but I was feeling so passionate about it. And I think that there's just, you know, other people's reactions can be that zooming out for me. Because sometimes they'll be followed with, huh, why do you think that affected you so much? Or why do you think that's so hard for you? And then it just kind of, shakes me out of those feelings, and I'm able to kind of look at it and ask myself, why does this actually bother me so much? Or why am I so affected about it, on it? And then what I said earlier is prayer as well. So oftentimes I've had sisters send me messages, and this is how I'm feeling. I need to talk to you about this, and it needs to happen right now. And I will listen, or I will read their message, and often my response is, I'm so sorry. I try to be empathetic, because I definitely know where this goes. But before we chat, I often ask them, have you chatted to God about it? Because I don't want to hear about it if you haven't talked to God about it. He should be our first thing. He should be the thing we go to. Prayer should be. And I've had girls get irritated with me because I'm like, have you chatted to God about it? Talk to God and then give me a call. They're like, no, but I need to talk about it right now. And after, they'll sheepishly call me back and say, praying about it actually helped, and I don't need to talk to you anymore, God, because I think God works in that. So I think we need to, well, I think that prayer in general will often be the thing that can kind of help us look at life as a little deal and realize in the big scheme of things. So yeah, I think those are kind of the two different areas that really help me zoom out.
That's awesome. Well, and I want to say is, sometimes you have the opportunity to do that, and sometimes you Garden of Gethsemane, right? What's in front of you is the cross. I mean, there's no ways to dodge it. You cannot tap out of this. Like that, this hard season, this hard situation has to be gone through. And yet, what do you see? Jesus, he calls his three best friends. He knows that, they can't really do much, but he wrestles in prayer to get a different perspective. And you see the difference when he enters the garden to when he exits it. He says, rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. Like, he's like, I see what's ahead. I see this is going to be tough. I see one of my best friends are about to betray me. Rise, let's go. And I think that's the resilience that we need to have. And I don't want to minimize that, any of the things that we go through, but I think it's so true what she says, people in prayer. So let's bring it in for a landing here. I want to get super practical here for a moment. So I think those two big thoughts. One, if you can accept that hardships, falling, tough times are going to come, that you're not special and I'm not special, like these things are going to unfold. So don't be surprised. You are special. Jesus loves you. But this is part of it. All right. So let's not be surprised and, stay there. The other one is let's zoom out. Okay. But if you were to ask me, okay, but how do I build it? Like, how do I go away tomorrow and build resilience into my character? Okay. Laura has a thought. I have a thought, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
So bear with me on this one. I was even telling Jacques, and he was like, and how does this develop resilience? I think the first thing is to have fun. Okay, so if I was thinking, just kind of how do I even instill this in my kids? In our busy and driven world, I think we can often think that and feel as though everything that we should do, should get us closer to meeting a goal or an achievement, and consequently play or fun can actually feel counterintuitive because it doesn't outwardly appear to be achieving anything, if you will. There's no purpose except for just the genuine joy that it can bring, right? And play or having fun actually triggers a release of endorphins, the body's natural kind of feel-good chemicals, which actually relieve stress and actually relieve, or temporarily can relieve pain. Psalm 118, verse 24 says, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We are encouraged to find joy in the day right in front of us, right? Not because we've accomplished something, but because joy is actually a gift from God. And I think having regular moments of fun will actually prevent depression, not prevent, because I know that there are chemical imbalances and different things, but it can help aid to depression, and it can improve resistance to disease. And, so it's just actually been proven to do some of these things. I love sewing, I love exercising. depending on the time. I like to, be active and, do sports. I love photography. I love doing art projects or decorating and redecorating my house. Or my husband likes biking and fishing and hiking and watching sports. And, but whatever your fun is perfect, right? There is no need to compare yourself to the next person or evaluate or shift your fun to match other people's. Only what is truly fun for you will give you these benefits of that joy, and that benefits of the joy, but also the resilience, because I think having these stress-free things are actually going to enable us that when difficult times come, it allows you the emotional, and mental break to be able to relieve these stresses in a different way, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to share. Have fun. It helps build resilience.
Yeah, all work and no play, man. Like, that's not good. And I battle with that. Everything for me needs to be achieving a goal.
That's why it was hard for him to hear. I was having fun doing that.
And it makes me high strung, and it makes me oversensitive, and it makes me just, everything is so serious. But I think people that have tons of fun tend to be just more resilient. They pop back up a little. They laugh at themselves a little bit more. So the thing that I'll say is the opposite to what Laura will say. Right. So if I were to give advice to, let's say, Zander to build resilience, it would be very simple. I would ask him to engage in a hard task and do it consistently for the next 20 to 30 days. For example, if you're not a reader, all right, or you start books and you don't finish them, my challenge for you would be to read a book to completion. So even when the quitting point comes, when you're like, I've lost interest, I don't see the point, I don't enjoy this anymore, it's at that point that you have to make the decision that I'm going to break through the quitting point. The best way is through exercise. Let me tell you, if you're not a massive runner, but you decide to go run 5Ks every day, in those 5Ks, your body will tell you to stop over and over again. There'll be thoughts saying, why am I doing this? This is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. But that quitting point is what you need to break through. That quitting point, when you get there and you're faced with the decision, you have to decide, I'm going to keep going. I will not stop. I will not walk. Even if I run slow, I'm going to continue to run. If you can do that day in and day out, you are building this resilience, this grit muscle to push through quitting points. So that's what I would say, is to find a task that you can do that's tough, and just make a decision. It can be as simple as deciding to get up at the same time early every day for the next month. Pick 5 a.m. I can tell you there's going to be a quitting point. That alarm's going to go off and you'll be like, this is crazy. There's no point to this. Why am I doing this? I can sleep later. But that's the point. If you want to proactively build resilience, you have to push through. And that will build the muscle proactively. All right. So hopefully that's super practical, but I think that would be helpful. So that's really it from us, guys. That, a righteous man, a righteous woman will fall 7 times, and don't get hung up on the 7. They will fall often, but they get back up. They bounce back. They pop back up as that buoy. And our prayer and our hope is this will at least be the start of the conversation for you, and that you can think about this a little more, and maybe you could take the conversation further with people in your life about how to build this in your life. Amen. So,
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you guys so much. I know you guys said we're gonna do or open it up for some Q&A or just responses. But yeah, I just want to give my own response. I think this is incredible. I think I see the grit in both of your lives. Just with Jacques recently doing the Sani and waking up at the crack of dawn to go cycle with my dad. That takes guts. And then just Laura in everything. Like she will have a migraine and she will still go and do the kids' things and then have a call with someone and just continue in life. But yeah, I really loved the practicals of how to have fun. And yeah, even that, my mind's like, oh, okay, now I get it. Having fun, like it's a swap, like you kind of get to take a break from constantly having to persist and having to have grit. And then also the engaging in hard tasks. It sounds disgusting. Like, I don't want to do that at all, but thank you for the challenge. I am thoroughly humbled. Amen.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks, Max. That's great. Laura is one of the most resilient people that I know. It's one of the most attractive qualities about her, for sure.
Getting some brownie points.
Here we go.
Yeah, mine is. Oh, were you gonna speak, Xander?
I was, but you can go.
No, it's fine. You can speak.
Okay. It's fine. Yeah, I think you guys subtly touched on this. This is something that I've come to learn recently. Is no matter the hardships and things that are going through in my life right now, that does not equate to God's love for me at all. I think sometimes, like we said, we can be so zoomed in the here and now and things that are happening that we can completely forget what's going on. And I think it's John 15 verse 13 where Jesus like says, what better love is there than one who lays his life down for a friend?
Yeah.
And that is Jesus just saying, you know, if things don't go away, we don't know why things are happening the way that they are, but we can't say it's because Jesus doesn't love us.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think this story, I've read it so many times, the story of Joseph, and I think it's such a humbling experience just seeing like God working through all these trials. You think he's had enough after being sold to slavery, you know, like but no, God is like, you know what, I'm still going to install these things in your heart, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to reconcile with your parents as well. Like everything is going to come to completion. So I think that is such a beautiful story. And so thank you guys so much, even just for the practicals. I think I lean very much more towards Laura's side of just having fun. I'm much more relaxed, and yeah, so I'll definitely take that challenge up with the books, because I definitely find myself reading one chapter and this is not it. And then
Sure.
So yeah, thank you guys so much. This was definitely worth the call. I know we're only 6, but I think, well, 7 people on this call, but I think we were the lucky 7 on this call.
Amen. Dude, I think it's an excellent point, Xander, is obviously, and yeah, that's why this morning session was so important. You know, so many of these things are only enabled through an incredible walk with God, a relationship with God. Without God, failing, tough times, setbacks almost does not make sense. So I think we have a different hope. And when I say hope, not as in hopefully it will happen, but a different hope that grounds us, that anchors us. So I think it's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't interrupting anybody. So I think for me it was like more of a comment, like the minute. So I didn't know. I looked up grit, and at first it's like, grit, you know, it sounds like something that's, you know, tough, and then I looked it up, and it was just like the courage, something. It just mentioned what it's like to be, like the courage to be yourself, and grow in your character, and to push and push and push. And I was just like, okay, this sounds interesting. All the other topics, like we're all just like, I don't know where to go. And I think at the last moment, I'm just like, this is what I need. And it genuinely is what I need, because the minute you spoke about the ability to get back up, the ability to, I'm like, that is me. I need that. I have been going through that throughout this entire year and years before, but this year just feels like the worst. Like it just, and it's just so easy to want to be like, okay, fine, I give up, I'm done. And then I'm like, no, I'm not giving up. And also just knowing, like, obviously having my mom as support, so her being a disciple, so she's always encouraging me, and she knows, like, I get so frustrated, and I can't, I'm not going to be a good therapist, I'm not going to do good at my speech therapy or anything. And so, like, last semester was a difficult one. Like, I was in and out of depressive episodes. When you're in a depressive episode, you can't even get up and do the smallest of things. And I was just like, no ways. I'm like, no ways. What is happening? And then I just kept going. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to give it like 110%. I'm going to give it as much as I can. I'm going to try. And I wrote my exams. I didn't finish some of them. And I was like, why is my face there twice? Anyway, so I didn't finish most of them. And so when I was getting my transcript, I was like, I know what to expect. And I got it back and my heart sank because I had failed my major. And that obviously it's on a continuous cycle thing. So I can still redeem myself at the end of the year. But then my psychology exam mark was also a fail. And I was like, no. And I sent a message and I said, hey, is there a mistake? They're like, no, there's no mistake. I don't know what you expected by only handing in one paragraph. And I was like, excuse me, I handed in more than one paragraph. And then I just decided, okay, well, it's fine, I'll just take it next year. And then I sent an email. I was like, nope, no. I sent my full essay, I sent everything. And I just stood up there and I just went and I told them, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna hand in my essay. I know the maximum I can get is 50% for the year mark, but that's fine. That's all I need. And you don't have to take this module again. And so for me, that took guts because I was just like, they might come across and say, who do you think you are? But I was just like, well, I'm a student that's trying to do my best. And I think even being called into a meeting with my course coordinators at school, you know, coming out of everything that just happened, having to have dealt with 2 funerals and all of that. And then first day of school, we're learning about stroke already off the bat. And I'm like, are you joking? But I'm able to, and we've been talking about stroke for the past 2 weeks. And I'm just like, you know what? I just want to scream. I just want to write in the chat, please stop talking about this. But then I just keep going. So I think it's really hard being the boy, that bouncy thing. I'm just gonna call it the bouncy thing. Being that when there's just like so much opposition and so many different things. And I think it's just hard because like in one therapy session with a client, I will laugh and we'll have so much fun and we'll get all our aims done. But when I laugh with another client, it's wrong. So it's hard to find, you know, to push back between supervisors and all of that. So it's genuinely definitely something that I needed. It's weird seeing my face twice. I don't know.
We only see it once.
We only see it once, so sorry.
I don't know why. I'm on the main screen and the baby screen.
Oh, there, now you are.
Oh, there you are.
Thanks,
Kia.
Thanks, Kia. Keep going. That would just be my encouragement, is I think, you know, we hope to instill a definition of success even with our kids, that it's the getting back up, it's trying again, it's keep going, don't give up, you know, so it's awesome to hear that you keep doing it. I'm so sorry for all the hard times, you know, but I really respect you a ton for bouncing back, getting back up and keep moving. So
Absolutely.
Amen.
Sorry, I just two quick comments. But the one thing that I quite related to is when you were saying, you know, like expect surprises. And because when I was a child, I was quite sick. And when I got better and everything, I was like, okay, you know, I've done my suffering in this life, you know, like there's like a limit. And in my matric year, I got very sick again, and I realized that was the most naive thing I've ever thought in my life, is that, you know, like we all have allotted suffering. So I think, you know, definitely being a Christian and suffering is kind of together, you know, you can't have one not the other. And I think that's quite a difficult thing to learn and accept. And then the other thing I was going to say is that like suffering and believing in Jesus is kind of a paradox. Well, in my life particularly, because the worse my life got, the more I could see that God was my only hope, the more resilient I became, the more I could cope with being sick. So, and I think that that's quite a remarkable thing about God, is that, you know, he honestly is our only strength, and he is my only way to actually be resilient. Things that happen in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as well, I also, as much as I've watched Katie suffer so much in her life, and watched her have so many hope-filled moments, you know, I've also watched so many downs, and so many, you know, there's a beautiful passage that talks about the mountains and the valleys, and there are so many valleys. But what I love about the Bible is that for many characters in the Bible, there are so many valleys. And what I love about Job is that so many times he's very honest. And I love the authenticity that we can have with God. And I love that Job is not afraid to tell God that he is angry. And I love how Laura just spoke. You spoke so beautifully about that pain, and how it is, just how you can feel so deeply. And that it's okay. And that's what I love about God, is that God is big, and God can take on our anger, and he can take on our pain. And I think that is also part of being resilient. It is going through that pain. It is being able to tell God that we are angry. It is being able to go through that pain and work through our anger with God, and still having hope in God. And I think that there's that really beautiful, that beautiful combination. And it's just being authentic in God and authentic in your suffering. So yeah, I think there's so much hope in that, in those valleys. So yeah, thank you so much for your stories, and thank you so much for sharing your hope and all of that. Yeah, so thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Amy. Appreciate that. Awesome. Well, we appreciate that you guys made this come to the class. And really, I just want to say, I'm sure even coming to a class like this, partly you've been through a lot, and partly trying to figure out, how do I keep going? But I just, Laura and myself have just kind of landed on the conviction with our young kids. I mean, we even like spell resilience, and we're like, maybe that's like a step too far for a 5-year-old. We're like, but this is essential. Like, if they are going to make it in this world that gets crazier and tougher, we need to instill this early on. So I think your desire to learn about this is awesome, and we absolutely feel like it's vital. So yeah, amen.